In this video, I'll give you my 2 cents on why Star Trek Discovery should be included in Star Trek canon. In a moment. I'm the oldest nerd, and I have 4 points here on why I think Star Trek Discovery deserves to be included in Star Trek canon. Despite the fact that many people have some serious doubts about whether this program lives up to being Star Trek, I think that I have some ideas that might clarify things a little bit. Number 1 is Captain Lorca. A lot of people don't like Captain Lorca because he seems to be a person that you can't read. You're not sure if he's the good guy or the bad guy, and that's just not like most Starfleet captains. I can agree with it as far as that goes, except when you look at the actual decisions that he makes and the care that he has toward his mission. He's not that different from other Starfleet captains, especially James Kirk. He probably does not violate the Prime Directive or go around Starfleet orders any more than James Kirk did. But I think what we don't have in Discovery that we've had in previous Trek series, the Captain's Log. Without the Captain's Log to give you the idea of what the Captain's thoughts are before he makes a decision, it makes it more difficult to read him. And since the show does not center around him like other Trek series have, it causes us to think probably a little less of Captain Lorca because he doesn't go exactly Picard-like to the rules, who, if you look at some of the episodes, even Picard didn't go directly by the rules, although mostly he did. Number 2, the Klingons. Now, the Klingons in Discovery have been criticized for being different than the Klingons in previous incarnations of Trek, and the fact of the matter is that they've never been the same twice. They, of course, in the original series were just put with dark makeup and mustaches and goatees, and in the first motion picture they had ridges along their foreheads, and in later motion pictures they had different types of headpieces. In The Next Generation, Worf looked different than that, maybe by only smaller degrees, but it's not been completely consistent as to what a Klingon looks like. And I would advance the idea that Klingons perhaps have different races and look different from each other. Now, in Discovery, they have them from the different houses, but it's no way of telling whether these are of a one ethnic group of Klingons rather than of the ones that we've seen in later shows, or in earlier shows for that matter. The Spore Drive. Now, here's something that happened before the original series, and yet not a mention has been made in any of the shows about the Spore Drive. My guess, because of the fact that Discovery and Gagarin were the first ships to use this, it was probably a very top secret thing. All the black badge people, the idea of the secret service of the Federation going along with this makes some sense, that if this wasn't a successful experiment, that it might not have become widely known, especially not to 10 years later when the original series aired, and maybe such ancient history that it just didn't get talked about in The Next Generation. That's a very considerable possibility there. The Spore Drive was just so terrible, and we'll see what we see when the series ends as to how the Spore Drive goes down. It's obviously caused some problems by the end of the first half of the season for Lieutenant Stamets, so we'll see what happens in the entire series. And my final point is for Michael Burnham. Since she is the center point of this series, rather than the captain, we see a lot of her inner thoughts. We see flashbacks of her previous life. We know more about her than we do about most any other character on the show. And some people don't like the idea that she was a mutineer. Okay, I'll give you that. That's certainly a first in Starfleet, but she did it at least for the right reasons. She honestly believed that they were wrong and she was right, and that's something that when you're right, you get promoted for. Almost like the Kobayashi Maru scenario, where Kirk cheated but beat the scenario and therefore was commended for it rather than court-martialed. So that's the nature of Star Trek. It's not always been so rosy. Gene Roddenberry in his later years, who believed that everything had to be absolutely rainbows and unicorns, was not that way even in his own first outing of the series. There had to be conflict. There had to be people that would break the rules. His idea that there weren't lawyers in space was countermanded even in the original series. The court-martialing of Spock shows that there must have been lawyers of some sort, or at least judges, in the menagerie. And then later on in court-martial, where Kirk is court-martialed and has a lawyer, they do in fact have lawyers. So this is something that was kind of a thing with Roddenberry. He believed in a utopia, but in getting the show done, he did not always follow it. And so I think that it's only fair that Discovery not follow it either in order to keep a compelling story. In all, I believe that Discovery is a very good show. I enjoyed all of the other episodes. I started watching Star Trek when I was a teenager and saw it from the second season on in original episodes. Watched all the Next Generation, much of Voyager, and some of Enterprise. And I think that I'm in a position to give this a seal of approval. However, you may have a different opinion, and I'd like to hear it. You can put it down in the comments under this video. Don't go far.